Chapter 11. Okay, Babe's here. 2 weeks after she returned from Scotland, Babe added another notch to her winning streak with a lopsided victory in the Broadmoor Match Play Tournament at Colorado Springs. By now, all sorts of offers were pouring in from advertisers and promoters. It got to the point where I stood to make a fast $500,000, Babe wrote. It's pretty hard to say you don't want the kind of money I was being offered. She couldn't resist, and neither could George. Together, they drove back to New York and signed up with sports promoter Fred Corcoran. On August 14, 1947, Babe announced at a press conference that she was turning professional again. It nearly killed me to throw over the amateur standing I'd struggled so hard to get, but I couldn't see any choice, she said. Fred Corcoran was director of the Men's Professional Golf Association and the agent for some of the biggest sports celebrities of the time, including golfer Sam Snead and baseball stars Ted Williams and Stan Musial. They were great guys, he recalled, but when it came to getting headlines, Babe had them all beat. She had a fantastic feel for publicity. Babe was a sports promoter's dream, and Corcoran immediately capitalized on her soaring popularity. That summer, he booked Babe at several major league ballparks where he put on a pregame act that included pitching during batting practice, taking a few cuts at the plate, then hitting golf balls into the outfield. At Yankee Stadium one evening, she called for a glove and stepped in at third base as the home team took the field for infield drill. Her barnstorming days were back. Corcoran recalled. She was hobbled somewhat by her skirt, but that didn't faze her. She ripped it up the front and went back to scooping up ground balls and firing them across to first base. The crowd went wild. As a golfer, Babe began to play exhibition, charity, and professional matches all over the country. Corcoran signed her to a lifetime contract with the Wilson Sporting Goods Company, which marketed a line of Babe Zaharia's golf equipment. She also renewed her old partnership with the P. Goldsmith Sons Sporting Goods Company, endorsing their products. She published a popular book of golfing tips, and she signed with a dress manufacturer to co-design a line of women's golfing outfits that would carry her name. In October 1947, Babe returned to Fort Worth for the Texas Women's Open, her first golf tournament since again turning professional. She had won the Texas Open 3 times in the past, but this year, the grueling schedule arranged by Corcoran had taken a toll. She was edged out in the quarterfinals by a young amateur named Betty Mims White, snapping her winning streak. At this point, Babe claimed 17 consecutive victories, the longest winning streak in the history of golf. Furious with herself for losing at Fort Worth, she came roaring back in her next tournament, winning the Hardscrabble Women's Open at Little Rock, Arkansas. Her spectacular 72-hole score of 293 on average of 73 plus per round set a world record for women's tournament medal play. Even so, Babe's loss at Fort Worth stuck in her craw, and for years afterward, she brooded about it. I honestly believe that if I had squeaked through in the Texas Women's Open, I'd have gone on and stretched my winning streak to 25 or 30 tournaments, she wrote. In any case, 1947 was another banner year for Babe, highlighted by her stunning victory in Scotland and crowned by her record-breaking performance at Little Rock. For the third year in a row, the Associated Press voted her Woman Athlete of the Year. Meanwhile, she was constantly on the go. The fees for golf exhibitions were good, she wrote, but we probably booked too many of them. 1 month there were 17 nights that I was on a plane. I'd play one place, then go to the airport if I to the next place. That grind began to wear me down physically, although it was years before I admitted it. With her exhibition matches, endorsements, and personal appearances, she was making more than $100,000 a year at a time when a physical education teacher earned about $3,500. Her golf game had never been better, but she found herself facing the same problem that had been so frustrating a few years earlier. Babe craved competition. As a professional, however, she had little chance to enter major tournaments and go after championships. There were a few more tournaments open to women pros than in the 1930s, but not nearly enough to challenge a golfer like Babe. She felt that there should be a professional golf association for women, just as there was for men, an idea enthusiastically supported by Fred Corcoran, her agent. A group called the Women's Professional Golf Association had been founded a few years earlier, but had been disbanded after sponsoring a single tournament. Corcoran learned that a new organization would not be permitted to use the same name as the old one. They would have to come up with something else. Well, okay, he recalled. We thought. In England, they called them ladies, and in a way, it sounded classier than women. We decided to call our tour the Ladies Professional Golf Association. In January 1949, Babe and George Zaharias met with Fred Corcoran and golfer Patty Berg at the Venetian Hotel in Miami, Florida, and drew up the charter for the Ladies Professional Golf Association, LPGA. Berg volunteered to be the group's first president. They believed that with a formal organization working to promote the game, more women golfers would want to compete as professionals. During its first year, the LPGA had just 6 members who competed for $15,000 in prize money, spread over 9 tournaments. Despite this modest beginning, the organization quickly transformed the world of women's golf. It grew rapidly, attracting dozens of new members and thousands of new dollars in prize money contributed by corporate sponsors. By 1953, members of the LPGA could enter more than 20 tournaments with prize money totaling $225,000. Many of the country's finest golfers joined the group. Patty Berg, Louise Suggs, and Betty Jameson were all, like Babe, former U.S. amateur champions, and all had won the U.S. Women's Open. Suggs had captured the British Women's Amateur Championship in 1948, the year after Babe won. Babe had several close rivals, golfers who were capable of beating her on the links on any given day, but she remained the undisputed star of women's professional golf. For several years, she won more tournaments and more prize money than anyone else on the women's pro circuit, and because of her name, she always brought out the biggest crowds. Babe changed the game of golf for women, not only by bringing along the LPGA, but by her kind of golf, said Patty Berg. She came along with that great power game, and it led to lower scores and more excitement. And she brought all that humor and showmanship to the game. She humanized it. She was the happiest girl you ever saw, like a kid. Our sport grew because of Babe, because she had so much flair and color. She and I were in competition with each other, but she was a great friend of mine. No one did more to popularize women's golf. Even so, Babe's uninhibited behavior made some of her competitors shudder. They believed that golf should be a dignified game, and they were offended by her earthy humor and boisterous sense of fun, and by her 5-year-old's hunger for attention, as golfing rival Betty Hicks expressed it. After a bad shot, Babe was known to shout, "Man, all that work, and the baby's dead." The gallery would howl, her opponent would gasp, and Babe, beaming, would swagger on. When reporters asked her how she was able to hit the ball so far, she replied, "I just loosened my girdle and let it fly." She really was a rather crude person, said Betsy Rawls. She added a lot of color to the tour when it was needed, but she did not add any dignity to the game. Babe was fiercely and openly competitive. She would stride into the locker room before a match and call out, "Okay, Babe's here. Now who's going to finish second?" Above all, she wanted to win, and she would do almost anything to outsmart or unnerve her opponents. She would throw a competitor off her game with a casual, "You always hold your putter like that." One of Babe's favorite tricks was to fudge on her practice score in order to intimidate the other players. We were playing in a tournament in Denver, and Babe shot an 80 in the practice round. Peggy Kirk Bell recalled. The press came up and asked her score. "Oh, about a 70, I guess," she said. I was horrified, and I said, "But Babe, you shot an 80. She said, "Well, I could have had a 70 if I tried." During tournament play, Babe almost always seemed calm and cool. no matter how intense the pressure. She rarely displayed her temper, but she could not stand to lose. Whether a major tournament or a casual practice game, she wanted to win, said her close friend and fellow golfer, Betty Dodd. I don't care what she was doing. Cards, pool, ping pong, it didn't make a difference, and she was not a good sport about losing either. Once she was out with 3 friends, playing for fun. When she missed several putts, she just stopped, one of them recalled, stood there, and all of a sudden she snapped the putter over her knee like a toothpick. Then she hauled off and threw the pieces into the woods. She scared the rest of us to death. We didn't say a word the rest of the way in. Babe could be overbearing at times, but for the most part she won the affection of women who toured with her. They grinned at her antics, tolerated her boasting, and admired her exuberant energy she brought to every game she played. Patty Burge was one of her biggest fans. You know, people loved the Babe, and they clung to her for her wit and her humor and enthusiasm, and really for her love of life. She enjoyed winning, playing the harmonica for people, and making them happy. She was a very caring lady. Babe also enjoyed practical jokes and pranks, a trait carried over from her school days. Once on tour, she was rooming with Peggy Kirk Bell at the home of friends in Orlando, Florida. Patty got up to go to the bathroom. When she returned, Babe appeared to be sound asleep in bed, but she had stuffed pillows in the bed to make it look that way, Peggy recalled. She was really under my bed. Just when I was dropping off to sleep, she grabbed my foot. I screeched and leaped a mile, and she just laughed and laughed. Another time, Peggy noticed that her bed kept moving. I couldn't figure it out. I'd just be off to sleep, and I'd feel this jerk. Babe had tied a rope to the springs on my bed, and she'd pull it from her bed and jar me. Life was never dull with Babe. She was just a great, big, overgrown kid who loved living. She loved every minute more than anyone I've ever known. Babe had one of her best years in 1950. She captured 6 major LPGA tournaments, making her the year's leading money winner. And she took a job as the resident teaching pro at the Skycrest Country Club outside Chicago, the first woman to hold such a post. With her tournament winnings, her salary at Skycrest, and the fees from her many endorsement exhibitions and personal appearances, she had become, as Fred Corcoran, her agent, boasted, the first woman athlete to bring her annual income up to 6 figures. As always, Babe gloried in her stardom. She drove from tournament to tournament in her latest car, a white Cadillac convertible with the name Babe spelled out in bright letters on the doors. At the end of the year, one of the biggest honors yet came her way. 4 times in the past, in 1932, 1945, 1946, and 1947, Babe had been voted Woman Athlete of the Year. In 1950, by an overwhelming margin, the Associated Press pool of sports editors named her both the Woman Athlete of the Year and the Outstanding Woman Athlete of the Half Century.